Hey everyone, Meet Kevin here. Welcome to the second Meet Kevin Show podcast. Today we've got Gali from HyperChange on, and I am like hyper stoked on this because we're gonna get to talk about three really exciting things happening in the stock market right now. Obviously, we gotta talk about Tesla. If we're gonna talk to Gali, this guy is like the genius when it comes to Tesla. He should be working for Tesla. I mean, absolutely amazing. Then we're gonna, of course, talk about GameStop. Then we're going to talk about WallStreetBets. Gali, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Say hello.
What up, Meet Kevin? Yeah, hyper stoked to be here as well. My name's Gali. I'm the founder of HyperChange, big believer in disruptive tech, big Tesla shareholder, and a big fan of this WallStreetBets movement.
Oh, that's super exciting. So why don't we start by talking about choices today? Like, let's start with Tesla, because part of me is thinking, me last week in the stock market, I'm sitting there looking, okay, I've got some money. I got to do some investing. What do I do? Do I put money into GameStop options? Do I put a little bit in, or do I maintain my long positions and double down on some of this sell-off that we saw in Tesla last week? What do you think? What are you doing? Are you buying calls? Are you just buying long stocks? What are you doing when it comes to stocks?
Yeah, totally. I mean, honestly, I'm a pretty boring buy and hold investor. Like, find the companies I love, just do a ton of homework on them, buy them like over years and years. Like my Tesla position has been, almost like a decade in the making, that I've been just buying, holding every little dip. So that's kind of my main strategy, is super long-term. But I gotta say, I'm tempted by this WallStreetBets, GameStop. I mean, this is, I think, kind of a once in a lifetime moment where the markets are breaking, market dynamics are forcing all these crazy pricing trajectories that we've just never seen before. So a little bit of FOMO for sure, but it's honestly just not my style. Like I find the hyper growth companies and then just trade them in a super boring way, just buy and hold long term.
That's interesting. So a question for you. Do you believe that this is something that I've wondered about? Is it possible that if you could sort of open the door to putting your money into a speculative bet, and not necessarily calling GameStop a speculative bet, but let's say you put your money into something that's not, you don't have as much conviction on as Tesla, and then let's say you make money there, you make a lot of money. Is it possible that if you do that, then you want to do it again, and then you want to do it again and again and again, and then you start losing your conviction for your real longs, and you open yourself up to more risk?
Yeah, totally. No, that's, I think that's the easiest way to get into it. Like I had an options trading phase like way back then. And that's, I think, the same exact thing. It's kind of the GameStop thing. Like you get one little win, then you get another little win, then you're feeling more and more confident. And then you want to keep playing that game. There is actually one kind of random trade that I am making now, which is totally not my style, which is like Unisocks, which is this crypto limited edition sock token on Ethereum, which I look as almost like a leveraged play on what's happening in the Ethereum ecosystem. So that is like one kind of trade I have. And my strategy with that though is like put my money in, let it go up enough, and like kind of take my principal and more off the table. Like if it goes up 300%, maybe I'll take half my position off. So I automatically lock in, 150% of my capital, 50% return, let the rest ride. But yeah, just try and maintain that discipline.
Do you have like a percentage of your investments that go into Tesla? And it's like, are you going 90% Tesla and then 10% spec? What are you doing? Because we know Tesla's the big one.
Yeah, no, concentration builds wealth, diversification preserves wealth. So if you ask me like
that's a great one.
Yeah, so if you asked me like a year ago, like I think up until mid 2020 or the beginning of 2020, it was literally just buy Tesla. It was like, do my YouTube videos, do my grind. Every single dollar goes into Tesla because this is like the company change of the world. And then they kind of blew up. So now it's like, well, it's up 20x. Like I'm not putting money hand over fist into Tesla. I've been looking at, should I invest in startups? Can I put money into SpaceX? Like, where's the kind of next Tesla being built? Is really what I'm focused on right now. And to be honest, I don't have a great answer. I wish I could tell you that one stock I was buying hand over fist like I was Tesla a year ago, or 2 years ago, but I'm still kind of searching.
That's interesting. So what is that, because we've had this run up, that are you starting to feel that the valuation might be a little stretched? Do you think there might be a correction coming in terms of why you might be hunting for others? Or do you just want something earlier in the growth phase?
A little of both, but I think that's a great point. I think we're totally potentially in line for a correction. I think this is something Kathy Woods talked about. I mean, you get these EV SPACs worth billions of dollars without doing a single car. I mean, Tesla's at 20x revenue for, right now selling cars. You're pricing in this robo-taxi business. Like even Elon Musk on the conference call was just saying like, how do you rationalize Tesla's valuation at this level? You have to assume we're going to, double our revenue per car with pure software margin because we're going to drop FSD. But the question is, it's one thing to say that, but let's actually see FSD occur. So we're pricing in more and more of that growth and success. And so I'm still super long-term. I still think Tesla, this energy play, what they're doing with the home, the solar roof, electric trucks could justify the valuation in the long term. But we're definitely like getting further and we're pricing more and more growth in the further up we go. And I think right now you're looking at about 2 to 3 years worth of growth priced in. But so I don't know, is that fair or not? Interest rates are zero. You're not getting yield anywhere else. So I'd rather bet on Elon to hold my money than like whatever the Fed's going to do with the dollar, right? So I'd rather own Tesla than dollars to kind of just preserve my wealth. Yeah.
The Fed and the dollar, what they're doing. Brr.
Yeah, dilution, right? And that's like my number one pet peeve as an investor is like dilution. Like I hate being diluted. So that's why, I'm a big Bitcoin fan as well.
Can't be diluted in Bitcoin. That's brilliant. So with that Tesla earnings call that you brought up, yeah, I remember that part. It seemed like Elon Musk had a little bit of a U-turn there, where in the past he would say our stock's overvalued. We've obviously seen the famous tweet, and this has happened multiple times. But is it possible that, or maybe why did Elon change his opinion? Why all of a sudden is he now defending the stock price and saying, hey, here's how you could value it. If our FSD does 5x, or even if we go with a conservative 2x, you could value at us at 20 times, whatever, 50, 60 billion, and we're $1 trillion company. Why would he go from bagging on the stock price to where now it's 5x as expensive, and now he's defending the stock price? What happened?
That is a really, I'm like, dude, props to you for noticing that, because I never even thought about that. But that is definitely a change of tune in Elon's voice of like kind of downplaying the hype of the stock, being skeptical about it, but now he's like justifying it, which is, but I think he's trying to show both angles of it and just kind of say both sides. And he is admitting like the robo-taxi's priced in when he acknowledges like we need that 50 billion of software revenue. So, but yeah, no, that is really, really interesting. I think Tesla's played this really well because as the stock price has gone up, they've done these capital raises. They have 20 billion in the bank. So in this, while this mania has gone on, they've actually totally transformed the underpinnings of the company and just have that massive war chest. And so as a long-term investor, I'm like loving it, because a year and a half ago, I'm pounding the table like we got $2 billion in the bank. We're burning $1 billion a quarter. We need to raise more money, Elon, or like we're going out of business, bro. Like this is it was like on the ropes. So I'm really happy that they've kind of leveraged that rising share price to make the future much more secure.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, it's almost Tesla almost feels. The thought of Tesla going bankrupt at this point just seems like, I mean, so many other things would happen before that would happen. It almost now feels like Tesla feels a safe investment, almost like a Google or an Apple at this point, where you could just park your money there and not be worried about it. Which almost begs the question: is that concerning? I mean, one thing that you just mentioned that is so right on is we keep having to revise our projections to include more and more revenue. When I first started my Tesla analyses, I would only include car revenue. That's it. Average selling price times units. And now to justify the share price, it's like, all right, I guess we have to now include service, and all right, now I have to include energy. It's like, okay. And the more we have to include, the less conservativeness we have in our analyses. So I think that's maybe why you're hunting for these other opportunities then as well now, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great business, but at what price? I just think at some point it comes down to that. And yeah, I love what you're saying there, because it's like you keep justifying it. And then I'm thinking like, wait, so am I really pricing in like $500 billion of a robo-taxi business that's like, right. Who knows when it's going to launch and hasn't generated $1 billion, like $1 revenue yet? Like That's where we're at right now,
So what's keeping you from the SPAC mania? I mean, now it's like a spectacular world. Look at like a CCIV, Lucid Motors, or these commercial SPACs. You've got NGA. Oh, we're going to electrify the entire fleet of the United States. Let's get Workhorse for the USPS and all this. What's your take on all these, low volume selling, if at all volume selling companies that are SPACing to really ride the coattails of Tesla's growth?
Yeah, I think it's really the sign of a bubble. And I would say those companies, their product is not a car. Their product is their own stock. And you see Lucid taking out advertisements on football games. They don't even have a car you could buy. They're advertising their stock for an IPO. They're not advertising the car. So I just think like talk is cheap. Like if give me 500 million bucks, I can pay a guy on Fiverr to do a rendering of a pickup truck and do a SPAC. You know, I'm actually going to make a troll video where I like do a fake SPAC. That's the first $1 trillion ever EV SPAC. I'm kind of letting this slip right now, but like it's going to be a troll video. But I just think it's so ridiculous. Like, you know, I just joined the board of a company called Arcimoto. And what impressed me so much about them is like they have a factory in Oregon. They had 4,000 orders. Like they just delivered 97 units last year, just starting production, just ramping. But like it's so hard. It's taken them like a year of just kind of, you know, slogging through this production grind. So did it take Tesla. Like once that flashy prototype is what I call the honeymoon phase. Then it's like actually building them. Actually, you know, Rivian's worth 50 or whatever, 25 billion bucks. They still haven't even delivered a single car. I mean, so I think a lot of these SPAC investors are like not doing the homework. They don't look at the financials. They don't even know the valuation. It's just sort of this WallStreetBets mentality of like, you know, this is going to be dope. It's, you know, I know Lucid's not worth 10 billion, but they're going to trade for 20 billion because SPAC mania is there. So that's why people are buying it. So I really think it's gambling and trading, not really investing and doing fundamental analysis. So that's why I haven't done it. And I think a lot of the world's greatest companies are not SPACing. Like I think a lot of it's VCs who just are dumping their losers. And like Chamath, like I'm a big fan of Chamath, like his last SPACs, like I'm going to change the world with this climate SPAC. I'm getting FOMO, you know, biggest Tesla investor. I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be something dope. Like I don't know, like I'm just getting FOMO. And then it's like this solar financing company that's like, dude, this is just whack. Like, you know, the moat in solar is having zero customer acquisition costs. That's Tesla, because everybody walking through the door to buy an EV already wants solar. You already got their name. That's 40% of the cost structure of every other solar play. This is just not going to work. So I think the quality of these SPAC companies isn't great. Impossible Foods, why aren't they SPACing? Neuralink, boring company, why aren't they SPACing? Rivian, even though Rivian's not even that great, even they're too high quality to really SPAC it. So I think I would be very, very cautious. And I think a lot of investors are forgetting what happened in the first SPACs. Where's Nikola at? Where all the people who were stoked at Nikola? You know, it's like, so I don't know. Very, very interesting to see how this plays out. But on the flip side, how great is it that we're getting hundreds of millions of dollars funneled into these amazing clean energy companies? And how great is it that investors are just pumped, no matter what you attach that we're going green and we're going electrifying this industry, investors are pumped to fund you. I love that kind of mentality shift.
It does seem like almost what's happening is there is such a race to get high quality EV products to the market, to get energy products to the market, that you've got a company like, let's take Lucid, for example, that has a great concept, has a great design, and they're looking going, okay, well, we can go traditional IPO to raise money and it's going to take us 2 or 3 years. But by that time, like before we actually get vehicles out, Apple's going to be having a car, which that's going to take forever, right? Apple's so behind the ball on that. But it almost seems like the companies are in this position where, because Tesla's so far ahead, and I want to hear your comments on this, is it possible that maybe they're SPACing because they have to get the money to try to catch up? That's going to lead some of them obviously to fail, but it's almost like they have no choice, because then they get the money to build the factories and they can move on. Like, you know, public markets are a great way to access capital for companies.
Totally. And I mean, if you're the CEO of Lucid and they're like, do we want to raise 2 billion in this round from these really annoying VCs? Or wait, Nikola's worth 30 with doing less than us. What if we SPAC and we're raising at 10 billion all of a sudden? Who cares if we dilute 20% for the SPAC company? That's still going to be cheaper. So I get that. If I'm the CEO and I'm having that meeting with a bunch of the startup founders I invest in, is like, dude, why are we doing this VC round? Because if we SPAC'd you, you'd be worth 10x as much. And this is a real conversation that people are having. So I wonder if it keeps getting easier to SPAC and SPACs just everybody starts SPACing, or is this a euphoria where a couple of them start to turn and people realize, like Tesla, like being public isn't very fun when your numbers aren't good for a couple quarters. Like how many of these SPACs actually have a conference call where they're like, yep, we burned 87 million, like no revenue still in sight. Like I don't know, like how long do investors, it's just kind of, yeah. But I think that's a great point.
And almost how much, how much, what's shocking to me is how much appetite there is for the SPACs. There's so much money that seems to be, like there's almost this endless supply of money that seems like that's coming out for them. Now, with the exception of with GameStop, I have to say, with GameStop, like finally we see the rest of the market sell off as something's going up. But it seems like the last 6-8 months, it's been SPACs going to the moon, and everything else is also going, like, what is happening, right? Like, what are your thoughts about the market in the last 6 to 8 months? Like, how can we keep investing? Is this sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like some sort of inflation. Like there's just so much money sloshing around the system, and it just doesn't care about fundamental analysis. Like the GameStop thing is just, and I mean, they outdid these hedge funds that are billions of dollars because there was so big of a swarm. So, yeah, I don't know what to make of it. It feels like there's so much money sloshing through the system, and no matter what SPAC it is, there's just a flood of millions of retail investors who are ready to buy it and pump it. And it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy almost.
Shocking. So on the note of this competition coming, what are your thoughts? And I haven't, maybe you've probably spoken about this, but what are your thoughts on like the Xpings and the Neo in competition with Tesla in China? Obviously, China being, you know, the biggest EV market in the world with 40% market share. That's going to be a market. As American investors, we have this home bias, but it's one that we have to pay attention to as Tesla investors. What's your take?
Great point. And like you said, what are we pricing in for Tesla? It used to be like, oh, we're not even pricing in China. Now it's like we're pricing in a domination of China. So now,
Yep.
you know, it kind of, that the conversation changes, because when I started investing in Tesla, it's like, dude, they sell a couple 100,000 cars here. Neo can win, Xpeng can win. It's all good. But now it's like, well, you're pricing so much in the valuation. We're pricing in 500,000, 1,000,000, 2,000,000 cars in China. That starts to get interesting with the competition. I think longer term, China is making a genius bet strategically as a nation state that, okay, the propulsion technology of this era is electric. We want to be a leader in that. We were not a leader in gas. We're importing more and more oil every day. This is not sustainable. We do not want to rely on foreign powers to import oil. Let's be a leader in this new propulsion technology. So we're going to let Tesla build their factory here, first wholly owned factory ever, train all these employees, get all that technology, Neo, Xpeng, all, and there's like, I think so many of these startups. And what I was surprised by is, are they just selling in China or are they going to export? And we recently got news that Neo, or I think it was Xpeng, was exporting to like Norway. And to me, I'm like, wow, now this is going to get interesting. Ford, GM, Volkswagen, this is a joke. This is not Tesla's competition. Neo and Xpeng and Amazon and Apple is who I'm watching to really compete. And that's why I think you bring up such a good point. It's like, yeah, like Neo, their manufacturing partner is a state-owned entity by the government of China. If the government of China wants to win, they could just subsidize this and charge Neo half the price for what it really costs to build a car. All of a sudden, this is an unfair economic advantage of like a massive nation state subsidy competing with Tesla. You know, that's really interesting.
No kidding. Yeah, their manufacturing plant being I think it's half owned by the Chinese government. And you're right. It's like, well, crap. Tesla's over there operating their own 0% Chinese owned facilities. How's that going to play out in the long run? You know, I've got some theories, but I want to hear from you. When do you think that actually becomes a risk that we have to start calculating? Is this a near-term risk or is this a 10-year out risk?
I would definitely discount the value of Tesla's China business for some of this geopolitical risk. But at the same time, look at a company like Apple, who's been extremely successful in kind of playing the game and navigating it and making a ton of money despite some competition coming in. So I think there's a way to do it. And I used to think the world's really started to close up now and become a lot more localized. But I used to think there was this sort of beautiful like incentive to open up the world where China is winning because they get technology, their consumers feel empowered because they get American brands. Like it felt like that was really happening. And that was my thesis of like, China's stronger with the US and our economies interlinked than separated. But now in the past 5 years or so, that seems to sort of have changed. And so I definitely think this is a risk factor in the Tesla thesis for sure, is that what happens in China, how big, how fast, and how good, how fast does Neo expand and Xpeng expand, and how good are their products getting, or like how much better are they getting?
Curious to know your thought on this. My thinking on this risk is we potentially have a solid 10-year run for Tesla to operate with Chinese government support. So, hey, you want to open up 3 more gigafactories? Please. Because one of the beautiful things that's happening with Tesla China right now is the more Tesla cranks, the more the graphite miners make in China, the more the battery companies make in China. And it's almost because of this front runner, all of these other industries are being created. You're getting more dormitories around the battery factories. You're getting JAC, the Neo partnership, blowing up because Neo's trying to raise money in the markets. They're making more money, leading that manufacturing plant to expand more. It's almost like Tesla's helping everything blow up. And you brought up a great argument too with Apple. Like, look, Apple's managed to win. In fact, in their last earnings report, they crushed it with Chinese sales, which I don't think anybody was expecting. And so now you wonder, okay, but how long is that going to last? My guess, it's a 2030 issue, but I want to hear what you think time-wise.
Totally. I think exactly right. It's a 2030 issue, and it's definitely something that's going to get more and more prevalent. And one angle that I want to throw into it is the privacy angle. As consumers focus more and more on privacy, and who's has that camera, who's watching where I go at every second, and this kind of localization, as much as it hurts Tesla in China, it also hurts Neo and Xpeng when they export abroad. It makes Tesla stronger in Europe and the US. So I think there's kind of two sides to the way that plays out, and that would make me feel better. But I think what you said from China, from a geopolitical standpoint, all their miners, all the factories, all the cathode processing facilities, all of that stuff's getting huge business, and they're building up all these supply chains to help all these other EV companies. And so it's really a strategic move at this point. But I would be, to me, it feels like they're friends and they're winning while they're both winning. The second one person's like, China's like, well, we already know how to do all this. It's like, well, we don't really want to help Tesla anymore, So, but now they're both kind of getting help. So
that's a good point. And I think you brought up another thing that's so important is one of the things that I scratch my head about is people complain about Tesla, potentially sales declining in Europe. And now we know that these are the Chinese manufactured vehicles going to Europe. Personally, having been in Germany and not trying to, stoke bias problems here or cultural issues, I am very concerned that Europeans want European-made cars. They want the European-made Tesla and not the Chinese-manufactured Tesla. What's your take on that? I mean, even what you said with privacy, but privacy, another big issue, obviously, but beyond that, just where it was made, that European pride. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's definitely a thing, but I think it's like very overrated how much of consumers actually care about that. Like, I think if the Neo is like $10,000 and it looks cheaper and it looks cooler, like people are just going to overlook that and buy it. Like the amount of people who actually are like, I really need a German built car because I'm German is just pretty low. Honestly, I think that's kind of my take. Is like there's a lot of like misconceptions about what consumers think, but at the end of the day, like it's a lot easier to kind of change their mind.
It comes down to dollars and cents.
Dollars and cents. Yeah,
the best deal.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Okay, good.
It's easy to say they only buy German cars when the Germans are making all the best cars.
Good point. Good point. Let's get some real competition. I see what you're saying. So that brings up, you're not excited about GM. And I understand like Ford and these other legacy makers. I gotta pick your brain. So GM has this company they bought called Cruise. You might be familiar with. They paid, I think, a couple $2 billion for them, a few years ago. Now the company is valued by a Microsoft partnership at around $30 billion. It's, to me, is it possible that GM, who's sort of home growing this autonomous autonomous neural network manufacturing company, if you can call it that, is it possible that with GM building that company within GM, that there's this butterfly that's going to break out of the ugly shell of GM in the future?
I highly doubt it. I think it's the innovator's dilemma. Like Mary Barra is incentivized to keep her job and salary and not take big risks, not like change the world with her equity package like Elon Musk is. So I think incentives are a big thing there. But also the business case of this to me is very simple. If you do not have an existing business to subsidize the collection of billions of miles of data, then you don't have the free data flywheel that is necessary to train your neural net. So Cruise is burning huge amounts of capital. I don't know why the market loves this business for GM. It's just a money loser because they pay engineers to drive around in these really ugly cars with all these sensors to collect all this data. It's just, they're just losing money. And then Tesla, I paid Tesla and now I'm driving around my Tesla giving them data for free. Like this is just such an economic friction and that's why Google, this is kind of one of my hot takes, is Google divested from Waymo. They're letting outside money come into Waymo because Google's the smartest company in the world at AI. They know we need that data flywheel. We're tired of paying our engineers who are good at coding to just sit in this minivan that drives around and like wastes hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like we're just tired of doing it because we need that data flywheel. And so Tesla's the only company that has the data flywheel. Amazon has a real shot because they're going to soon have 100 or 200,000 delivery vans driving around our cities that they can slap sensors on that are already getting paid existing business to subsidize that data collection. So GM does not have that to me. And all of the companies, like, I think it was a genius move to buy Cruise. Like they need a Hail Mary for sure. Like I like GM a lot more with Cruise than without Cruise. But when I look at that Hail Mary versus like Comma AI strategy or like Rivian or Amazon or Apple or Tesla, it's like, dude, like GM is just, Yeah, like, and all these companies actually, one other thing about GM is like they have this strategy of like, we're going to throw out like 30 EV models by 2030. And it's like, dude, make one EV model that people want, because you made the Bolt, but it's still not good enough to where it can't it sells way less than a Tesla despite being way cheaper. So it's like, why don't you just make one product that's good before trying to make 30 products that all suck? Like, so even their strategy of products to me doesn't seem cohesive.
To align with that. Yeah, no, that's interesting. It seems like almost what they're trying to do is they're trying to take their existing vehicles and then just slap cruise onto everything. Let's do an electric Hummer, slap cruise onto it. Let's do the GMC Suburban or whatever, slap cruise on it, and just slap cruise on everything. So then it almost makes you wonder, are you potentially going to have the Microsoft dilemma, which Microsoft has had for decades, where you have like multiple different departments, and then when they try to come together, they have a subpar product because they weren't engineered together from the ground up. Is that possible?
Exactly. I think that's so much of what you just said is like the cultural DNA of Tesla is like everything's in-house. Like their autonomy day, like it's just this team of like Navy SEAL people. And then you get to GM and it's like this hodgepodge of companies we acquired. The founder's already worth 50 million. Like does he really care about what happens to Cruise now? Because he's already so rich. Like, I don't know, so there's just a different level. And I think talent as well. Like if you're the world's leading coder or engineer, do you want to work for GM or Tesla? It's just, yeah. I think the talent arbitrage that Tesla and Elon have of recruiting better engineers is to me like why in the back of my head, I'm like, it just doesn't matter. Like GM's just not like, they're just B engineers versus A+ engineers.
Wow. That's a big statement. And that's actually one that I have not considered is the talent arbitrage. I think that's a brilliant point. So that now another question. Tesla, my Tesla Model X does not have an interior cabin camera, but the new Ys and 3s do. Chevy Cruise, or whatever, GM's Cruise, they have an interior cabin camera for their Cruise system. And if you don't maintain eye contact essentially with the road, you start getting alerts that you need to pay attention. Otherwise, the system turns off. In the Teslas, we wiggle the wheel, which quite frankly means I could like be doing this the entire time. I'm not looking at the road. I personally would not buy a Chevy Cruise vehicle because I'm not gonna eye glue to the road all day long, which sounds terrible to say that, right? Because it's like you're supposed to look at the road all day long. But let's be real, when you're driving this Tesla autopilot, you do have the opportunity to occasionally look away from the road. How much of an impact do you think that has on people's purchasing decision, given that the audience who buys Teslas is generally the 25 to 45-year-old dude? Dude probably 75 to 80% compared to females.
Definitely a big factor. And I don't know. I just feel like even with this Cruise debate, it's like they're trying to argue something that to Tesla is already irrelevant, because it's like we're going for full autonomy. Like we're not trying to go for this middle solution of like, we're going to track your eyes on the road. That's why like Tesla put that camera and was going to have something like that. And they were like, screw it. Like, we're just going to get to full FSD. You're legally liable to not touch your car. Like nothing matters until we get a general purpose autonomy solution. That's why Elon Musk has been and on the conference call, he's like, I drive the bleeding edge up to a place I've never been in LA. The car gets there and back with zero intervention. So to me, that's the holy grail. Nothing else matters until it truly can do it by itself. If our eyes have to look or we have to wiggle the wheel, this is not the game-changing robotaxi innovation. So I don't know. That's kind of my take on that. But to be honest, I haven't looked too much into Cruise and like new feature that they're talking about.
No worries. Now, so what you just said though is that Tesla put the eye sensor in there, and then they're like, forget it. Is it possible that Tesla put the sensor in there to start training their algorithm on and have humans help train the algorithm, so that in the event the government says we need something better than shake the wheel because people are hacking this, they're putting sandbags on it or the oranges in the whatever. Is it possible they're doing that as just a safety net, or do they want to use that? I mean, it seems like you don't think that, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of just a guess about the eye thing, but I think a big part of it is also if you rent your car out on the robotaxi network, which is why it's just on their cheaper cars, then you can watch what's happening in your car. And so I would feel a lot worse trashing somebody's car if I knew there was a camera there. So, and I think
Ah,
Tesla also has a strategy of like building out hardware ahead of the features. So they're like, we don't know how we could use this, but like in a robotaxi world, it might make sense to have that camera in the car. So we'll put that camera there, even though we're not going to use it yet. And just kind of
interesting. That's
thinking
another
ahead.
possibility. Yeah. I mean, it's like you get into some Ubers now, maybe not during the pandemic, but whenever they have cameras, so just
Yep.
so you can monitor what's going on. Okay, that's a good theory. Now, I want to switch gears for a moment, and then shortly we'll talk obviously about GameStop and the madness that's going on. But I want to touch on solar. So a lot of people that I hear when they ask me, Kevin, why do you invest in Tesla? Tesla's solar sales have been on this straight ramp down. People get very angry that Tesla's not producing more energy products faster and that there has been this down slope in revenue from energy. Personally, I believe a lot of that has to do with their model switch going from the Solar City model, which was a total scam, the PPP and the leases, to the model they have now. And then, of course, we have the solar roof. But I want to hear, what's your opinion? Why are we going down? Is that a valid concern? Or do we not need to be worried about that, given that Tesla just doubled, for example, their energy storage sales to over 1.5 gigawatts in a quarter? That was nuts. Your thoughts?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I would have, if you hit me with this argument a couple of quarters ago, I would have been like, okay, maybe you're onto something. But the past 2 quarters have been really strong for solar. Like the one they just reported, I think put a lot of that to rest. It was the strongest since 2018. And like you said, it was a real under the hood transition of like, okay, if you're looking at the GAAP income statement and the numbers just going down of solar megawatts deployed, it's easy to say this looks bad. But under the hood, they're like, we're not doing lease sales. We want to switch all the cash sales. We're going to totally change this Solar City model, which was going to go bankrupt. And so that took 3 years. And while they were doing that, they came up with this solar roof product. So that's what I thought is all the people who were hating on Solar City was such a hot take to say the acquisition of Solar City was smart for Tesla. And I still think it was, because it's going to be eventually what leads to the solar roof. And is going to become this business that I think, what do they buy Solar City for? Like 1.6 billion with another 1.3 billion of debt, like 3 billion. They're already doing an energy business that's 3 billion run rate. So I think there's going to be, I'm really bullish on solar, because it's like, okay, we can look at the financials. You can get too bogged down by that. Like, what is the biggest innovation in energy generation that's happening right now in the history of humanity? To me, it's retrofit solar was dope, but it wasn't economical enough. It wasn't simple enough, wasn't elegant enough to really make solar go mainstream at the residential level. We need to go one step further with innovation and convenience and cost. And that's embedding the solar panel in the roof, in a roof that also works as a real roof. So if you're going to get a new roof and it's a luxury roof, it almost makes no sense to not get a solar roof if you could, because of that energy generation component. And that's just going to keep getting better and better. Eventually, I think they're even going to have Starlink embedded. This is another moonshot I'm actually working on in your solar roof. And so to me, I'm looking at all these roofs right now at my window. None of them have solar. They're all importing fossil fuels from halfway around the world for their energy consumption. And they're just letting the sun hit them every day. And a roof costs as much as a Model 3. So I think in the long run, when I think about like bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity, my brain as an investor, this is why I still hold Tesla, not the car business. That's already priced in. What's not priced in is this whole like movement of just capturing energy from our roofs. And so I think the solar business, like if you get too bogged down in the quarterly numbers, you won't see this crazy vision that Tesla's building and how hard it is to install millions of solar roofs at once. There's a reason why nobody's done it, And so I'm just so bullish and excited. And I take the contrarian take. It's like when everyone says this is nothing, when nobody's pricing it in, when everyone says there's no future here, that's how you make money, by saying, no, I have a contrarian take. I think every roof is going solar and Tesla's going to build it. And that's tens and tens of billions of revenue per year that's not being accounted for. So that's my take. I'm so passionate about this being the next huge phase of growth for Tesla. And if you're still skeptical, I think the last quarter, I think they grew revenues sequentially like 40%, year over year, like 70%. Like you said, the battery business has been on fire. Now we're slowly gotten to that point where all the leasing is out of the solar, just direct sales, solar roofs ramping. I think we got every quarter from here out is going to start looking stronger and stronger.
That's brilliant. Yeah. And I looked it up here. So it was a $2.6 billion acquisition of Solar City. So you're totally right on about that. And I'm so glad they got rid of the old models that they had. So I 100% agree that energy is going to be that right now. First of all, energy is the most undervalued aspect of Tesla. And it's probably, I wouldn't be shocked to see it rival the size of the car business. And I love the fact that you mentioned this earlier, that there's basically you buy Tesla Solar, you're going to end up buying the car. You buy the car, you're going to end up getting the solar products. You've got this insane cross-selling, which is so brilliant for a company like Tesla. Other solar companies are sending sales reps knocking on doors every day to try to sell these things. So, but where I differ from you on it with solar, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, is I like, at least for right now, and I think for probably the next at least 5 years, I can't pay for the solar roof. It's expensive, in my opinion. One of the things Tesla does is they compare, and this comes from all the real estate I do, they compare a solar roof to if you were going to buy a tile roof, like something with a 50-year life. What we do out here in California is we look, that is a composition shingle roof. I'm putting on a new 25-year comp shingle roof for 9 to 11 grand. And then I price that out and I'm like, it's going to be 30, 40 grand for the solar roof. I have a hard time pushing that. Do you see that maybe taking longer to buy to get that cost parity down? Like, how are they going to compete with these cheaper comp shingle roofs?
Totally. I think it's still early and it's still like supply constrained. Like right now, Tesla has too many people that want it. So, but they're still eating that very high end of the luxury part of the market. If you're just going for the most, I think we need solar roof V4, V5 to really be, and them to nail the installation process before it comes to cost parity with like the truly mainstream roof. And yeah, it's like every new technology, the Tesla cars start out super expensive. So that's just kind of how I look at it, is like, yeah, you're totally right. Like right now it's still too early, but maybe in 5 years from now, 4 years from now, come back to me and maybe, it'll already be a $10-15 billion business on the cusp of being a $50 billion business instead of being a $3 billion business on the cusp of a 15.
That's a good point. So, yeah, no, that's a really good point. And the interesting thing with the roof too is, and I'll tell you this about Tesla. Tesla is brilliant from this point of view, but I have had Tesla come out to install retrofit panels probably at 4 of my properties.
Wow.
Every single one, Tesla, and I got so pissed at the sales reps because this kept happening, that on the 3rd and 4th, I said, don't bother me until you've sent somebody the property and said the roof is okay for us to put the retrofit panels on. They're like, no problem, no problem. Despite that, project 1, 2, 3, 4, every project I've run to them, they go to the property and go, yeah, Kevin, you're going to have to replace part of this roof. Oh, by the way, here's a contractor bid to replace that roof. We'll contract it out for you. And the price is like 2x what it should be because I used to be a contractor. And I'm like, Tesla's brilliant. They are not only making money off the panels, but they're now acting as a contractor to replace people's roofs, which by doing that, you go in and go, that's an $11,000 roof. Tesla goes, hey, we'll replace that roof for you for 20 grand. They're doing 2 things. If you go replace that roof and put the retrofit panels on it, they capture that 9K in contracting fees. Or they're charging, 20 grand for that roof, which is overpriced. You now look at the solar roof. It's like, if we add another 10, we get the solar roof. They are brilliant. What's your take?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it's, yeah, I'd love to see, like, I'm like, damn, I want to pass this feedback along and see what's up. But I think probably the structural integrity of your roof has to be sound for them to put solar. So I don't know. I always take I think a lot of people, Tesla, is so scrutinized that when they do something that's not perfect, people assume there's some bad intention where they're trying to juice more profit out of this sale, when it's really they put on an early roof and then the panel fell through because that guy and they were like, dude, you should probably fix your roof. And the guy was like, no, I don't want to pay for that. I just want the panels. And they were like, fine. And then it broke. And then he sued them. And they were like, oh, wow, crap, we are going to have to make people do a bulletproof new roof or we can't do a retrofit. And so then they just had to put that into their operations flow. And now they're going to have to recorrect and figure out a better way because it's causing too much friction. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of, but like you said, this is still early. The growing pains are there. I would say my high level take on this is the Model 3 of solar doesn't exist yet. They don't have the car that's ready to change the world. They don't have the roof that's ready to be installed, that's super cheap, that works every time, that every person can use to change their life. It's just that product line is not there. But when it is, it's a game changing amount of size for the company and value.
Great argument. I mean, really what you're saying is hey, this is growing pains, and that's
It's
something that I've
beta.
wondered too. Yeah, it's beta. This is growing pains. It's almost kind of like you see. Oftentimes, we'll see complaints at Tesla that their customer service just isn't good. That people are going to go to Neo because the customer service is better. The argument, right, isn't this just growing pains? I mean, I don't see Tesla as wanting bad service or coming across that way.
Yeah, totally. It's growing pains. And I mean, look at how much they're growing. They delivered almost as many cars in 2020 as all their years combined. Like if you ask an employee at Tesla and talk to them about their job, it's like, we're so much better. Like they'll kind of admit like some things we're fucking up, but we're way better at it now. We're improving every day. Like we're growing so crazy. And so, yeah, I think totally. You got to look at Tesla as growing pains. And if they weren't growing revenue at 50%, building everything in-house vertically integrated, then I'd be like, yeah, like you can't use growing pains as an excuse if you're not growing. But if you're growing like crazy and we're still making tons of money and the most customers are happy, like, So
I got a theory for you here, and this is maybe less of a theory, but more of a like an investing belief. Personally, I think the more of these growing pain stories that go mainstream, the more complaints there are about, Tesla delayed the Cybertruck, or the deliveries are a little less than they should be, or whatever. The more of that negativity, the more time we have to load up on this stock. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. I'm not worried about it. And I love the Jeff Bezos quote that's like, if you never want to get haters, like never do anything new. That's not exactly what it is, but that's what it is. So it's, I think it's easy to like complain and cherry pick complaints about Tesla, but it's like, I don't have a horse in the race. Like if Tesla's going to suck and they're dropping the ball, like I'll do that analysis and sell my stock, but they're not. For the majority of customers, they're killing it. Their customers are super stoked and they're literally making billions of dollars per quarter and growing like crazy. So, but when your business is touching tens of millions of customers, a couple of them are pissed off and talk about it on the internet. But like, yeah, it honestly, it's tough because I'm a Tesla customer and it's like compared to buying any normal car, this was an incredible experience. I love the product. There was no panel gaps. There was nothing wrong with it. It was, nice. They delivered it right to my house. It was just an effortless experience. I do everything through the app. The customer service has been incredible. Even though I had one service thing, my windshield fixed, scheduled appointment through the app, all automated, super efficient system. Got it there. They fixed it right away. Like, yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that as obviously a Tesla investor as well. I mean, my Tesla position is 51% of my portfolio right now. It's huge relative to my portfolio. One of the things that I love hearing about what you just said is when I bought my Tesla, I bought it at the end of 2017, back when they still had the dealerships. So I had to go to the dealership to pick up my my Tesla. The first 4 months of having that car, I swear I thought I had bought a lemon. There were times I would go to appointments and I would get in and it would say, car needs service, cannot start. And I need to go to an appointment. So I'm calling Tesla customer service. They're like, okay, this has literally happened 3 or 4 times. I would call them and what they would say is, all right, here's what you got to do. I know this sounds crazy. Take your key, walk away from the car. And so I'm walking through like this industrial area where I got stuck at one point. Walk away from your car at least 3 minutes in that direction. And then walk at the same speed back at 3 minutes. So you're away from the car with your key fob for at least 5 minutes. That's going to reset the car. And hopefully I'll be able to drive again. Like my initial Tesla experience was absolutely terrible. Like with the amount of errors and issues that I had. There was a point where, and it rarely rains out here, but it rained. I got my car seats in the back of the car. I opened the Falcon doors. And it funnels all the water that's on the roof, the wings go up, all the water funnels to the middle of the car and goes right into the back seat. Like the stuff that I went through was hilarious. They're like, oh yeah, we fixed that software problem. Oh yeah, we forgot to put the the diverter foam in or whatever for that rain. Yeah, sorry that happened. Like it was so ridiculous when I first got the car. But here's what was crazy. Everything got fixed. The autonomy got better. The customer service got better. They started having the mobile service. And so I went through this of going from, I had a lemon to holy crap, this is the best car I've ever had in my life. And that transition made me the most bullish on Tesla that I could really ever be. I mean, like, how do you think going in feeling so good about the company that, you know, do you ever feel that maybe you might be blinded to how great the company is because you've only had a good experience?
Totally. Yeah. And I definitely went through my phase of like when had all the customer service complaints. That was a thing. Like I didn't own a Tesla, so I was freaking out. I was like, is this a problem? Like, is every Tesla breaking? Like you kind of just, yeah.
It's almost like you got to buy it, like be a product owner. One of the things that I know my brother-in-law completely sold out a Tesla when he heard about the problems I was having. And it makes sense when you hear that. It's like, oh my God, that's a problem. But no, I'm so grateful to say that all of those things are solved, and I've become a more resilient, bullish investor in Tesla because of that. So what do you think, switching to this last thing here on Tesla, and then we'll go to GameStop, when is the Roadster ever going to come?
2022. It'll come, but
Whoa,
I hope it's 2022.
Bullish.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I keep saying like 3 or 4 because I think they're gonna go ramp Cybertruck and ramp semis before they're even gonna bother with the Roadster. Are you gonna get one?
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see how my YouTube channel does.
I love it. So 2022, that would be awesome. I mean, I think that car, when that thing's on the road, that is almost a showpiece icon of Tesla. Of course, I think the Cybertruck has that potential as well. Are you going to get the Cybertruck?
Yeah, I do actually have a Cybertruck reservation, and that was going to be my first Tesla, but then I got FOMO'd into getting a Model Y because I was like, I can't wait. Like Tesla stock's mooning. I got to get one. And I also think that watching FSD get better is something really cool that I wanted to just experience or like see what was up with the software as a customer if I'm going to talk about it on my YouTube channel. So, yeah.
Have you become a beta tester yet?
No, I have not. I don't have the real FSD. Yeah, right.
How do we get into this? We gotta we gotta make a movement here and sign up for this somehow, you know?
Yeah, right. I don't know. I'm like, I kind of keep dropping in my videos. I'm like, if you want to give it to me, like Tesla, I'm like, here, like, what's up? Like, I'm ready. Like,
I love that. Oh, that's great. Yeah, every time I get a notification that, oh, software update coming, I'm like, oh, please, let me be, let that be a beta, right? So, okay, then love your theses on Tesla. So agree with you. Tesla, and agree that we're probably potentially due for a little bit of a correction. What do you think about now? You're looking for these startups to invest in. Why don't you take the money that maybe you'd be throwing into Tesla at lower valuations if we were there? Why don't you take that money and just YOLO the GME and the AMC calls? What's stopping you, and what's your take on that?
You know, I'm a super disciplined investor who invests in businesses that build products and services that are awesome, not a trader like gambler. You know, so I just think those are different sides of my brain. And I've done a lot of trading and I'm fascinated by it. I guess I'm trading my Unisocks, but like, it's just different. Like, yeah, they're both stocks, but it's just like one's gambling, one's investing. Like, and I have a lot of, opinions on GameStop and what's going to happen. I think there's totally a chance the stock keeps going up, but I'm all about invest in the future you believe in. Do I really care if there's more GameStop stores? Do I really care if GameStop survives? Is that going to make the future better? Is that going to change the world? Do I think that energy could be much better focused on a company that's actually going to make progress and do something that makes the world better? That's what I would want to see this energy go towards. So yeah, it's like, okay. It's like, yeah, like you're seeing some guy go viral because he's like at some poker table going from like 50K to 30 mil. It's like dope. Like,
yeah.
Okay. Like,
so you actually think it's possible that there could be this zero-sum game of energy where if more attention is diverted to potentially GameStop, then that means another company is actually getting less energy or capital, which you think could potentially have a greater chance of changing the world?
Yeah, that's part of it. But I do love what GameStop is because I think part of the market, and this isn't, nobody's like a bad person for this. Just regulation has caused the market to be like this gambling casino. We have options, we have leverage, we have short sellers. None of this capital is going to the company. It's just a derivative casino market that's just fluctuating like crazy. And up until this point, these super rich Wall Street people were just manipulating it for their own gain, and they were just winning the casino, and every little person was losing. Now the little people have swarmed up and fought back and taken those people down. So, yeah, it's great, and they're winning their own casino game, but it's still this just random casino game where someone who doesn't deserve to get super rich is getting super rich, and nothing's getting done about changing the world. No technology's advancing. It's just people who aren't working hard and are getting lucky or getting rich. It's just those people aren't Wall Street douchebags. They're just Reddit posters, which I guess is good, and they're donating their money more than the Wall Street people are. So that's good. But, I think it's cool. I think it's, I'm all for the sticking it to the hedge funds. Like, I hate hedge funds. Like, I was, I'm out there in David Einhorn's office when he's shorting the hell out of Tesla and grilling me for an hour about how, Tesla's going to go bankrupt, this. And then all of our people are like saying, we're going to be long Tesla. CNBC's saying Tesla sucks. And like, it almost killed Tesla, the company that was actually needed to change the world when it survived. And so I was so in the long run, to see these short sellers get called out and just get put on them. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, actually, I do think GameStop is kind of changing the world in this amazing, great way, because it's taking down that complex that could take down a real company, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. So really, GameStop is almost the unintended social mover that's creating a societal change, is what you're saying. But because you don't necessarily believe that GameStop's going to have this game-changing, world-changing revolution in terms of a business model, but it is still the founder of the social movement.
Yes, and that social movement will stop the next great Elon Musk from dealing with these short sellers, which is a good thing. So I actually, so that's where I'm kind of like, I don't want to talk about it because I honestly I love that. And I'm all about the little guy. Like, we were the little guy. Like, I was the guy who gets on the Tesla conference call and let's go to YouTube after they say, middle finger to every Wall Street analyst. So I loved that. I was all about the little guy getting a voice. And so, yeah, it's in some ways I kind of want to take back what I said. I'm almost like, because I do think this is going to make the financial markets much better, which in the long run will help the right companies.
Right. So on GameStop itself, there's an argument, or some people are saying that maybe what they can do is they can win because GameStop has so many locations and people can try games before they buy them. Personally, I'm worried that you can have subscription models that are going to eliminate that through like Microsoft, which has the what is it called, the Xbox, I don't know, Xbox Play or Xbox Gold or whatever, where you basically have this subscription model to games where you're not even buying individual games anymore, as sort of a counter argument there. Where does your head fit in? Like, if you saw GameStop innovating, how would they do it?
GameStop's best bet to innovate is to change all of their stores into VR experiences and have it be like a mini theme park where you do like immersive VR games where there's too much CapEx. I don't have a whole room in my house with $10,000 worth of equipment to play this dope VR shooting game with my friends, but we can all go to GameStop in a post-COVID world. And like, it's like going to play laser tag, but this more kind of cool way. Like, what do you want the future to be? I think the future has these really cool futuristic gaming hubs of VR worlds. Maybe GameStop could be that asset. And then in the meantime, they milk the cash flow from this dying gaming business and sort of reinvent themselves. And so I think there is kind of, maybe you could argue that that's a thesis, but like the download thing, it's like, okay, if I want to try a game, no, I can just use the internet. Like, how hard is it for these gaming companies to innovate and let me download something online? Like the entire, I'm HyperChange, like brick and mortar is going away. Like, I was a gamer back in the day. Like, I hate it. Like, if I could just click a button and get the game versus like getting my mom to drive me to GameStop, like I would way rather just click a button and get the game. So first principles approach, I don't see GameStop adding much value.
What games did you play?
Huge FIFA fan. NBA Live was like my OG game in Madden. Like, I love sports games, and I would just do the franchise mode and like, get some growth stock, some good rookies, train them up,
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's a good point, because there is a lot of friction, or used to be, in getting games. I mean, I remember when games would launch. I have very vivid memories of, oh my gosh, Splinter Cell's coming out today, or the new World of Warcraft Burning Crusades coming out today. And you're going to these midnight releases at GameStop. Like, GameStop had this cult following of people, you will be lined up around a mall to get a game at midnight because you gotta get to the next level first. I was part of that, right? Like that is so part of my DNA. And that's gone really now with digital. I mean, that's one of the reasons Blockbuster went away. So it begs the question, like, yeah, how is GameStop going to innovate? And I think what you just suggested with these potential, like these virtual reality parks, brilliant idea. I mean, you really need to take advantage of getting people to come in. You do have this, this console refresh cycle, but then you wonder, uh, that happens once every 8 years. So like the Xbox or something. When's the last time the Xbox got refreshed?
I mean, the biggest innovation happening in gaming happened on the Tesla earnings call when the Plaid Model S had 10 teraflops of processing power. It's as much as an Xbox or a PS5 in your Tesla that just started competing with them. And guess what? The Tesla gaming ecosystem has nothing to do with GameStop. So the most bullish thing happening in gaming has nothing to do with GameStop. So I don't know. And I just see that keep popping up. GameStop to me is getting less and less relevant by the day. You want to know, like Tesla is going to put GameStop out of business almost, like.
Wow. Yeah. That's one thing I have not done in my car is I have not tried any of the games in the Tesla. Is it really that good? I mean, is it like, I just think like, because look, when I use the console, the navigation and stuff, then sometimes it's a little slow and it's a car navigation. It's not like your phone where it's like, we're really responsive. Am I missing out here? What have I not learned about these games?
Honestly, I feel like I think I'm almost too old to it because I play some of these games and like, I don't get it. But like younger people, kids, they love the games in the Tesla. And so I think it's kind of like a different cultural era. I don't know. I don't really play video games anymore at all. So I don't know. But I also don't get that. I'm like, are you really going to game in the car? Like, is this, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, go ahead.
Well, I just think it's crazy that Tesla put the screens in and put the processing power in, because that shows you, and they're really thinking about what happens in the car when it's autonomous. You want to be gaming. I think Tesla's next hardware product, if I was Tesla, it's got another Moonshot Monday, is a gaming controller. I think Tesla should create their own gaming controller instead of having you bring your own. And, and then maybe that app gets ported to your iPad and all of a sudden you bring your controllers inside and I'm gaming inside with the Tesla gaming system. So,
right.
I don't know. I'm really fascinated that this Tesla in game is the biggest innovation happening in gaming. You look at Xbox and PS5, like Microsoft and Sony, like not very big innovative companies still doing this console model. It's like, dude, like how much longer can this go on? Like it's got to be on the cloud. Like,
dude, I cannot stand consoles. Just like I have them and I've always had an Xbox, but I don't know what it is, but it seems like the processing power they sometimes put in these Xboxes, and I can't speak for PlayStation, but I feel like sometimes the processing power is a joke compared to what you can get on a cheap computer that you get off Amazon. Like a $600 computer smokes some of the processing power in these devices, and I don't know. So that's actually a really interesting argument that I was not expecting you to link Tesla and GameStop. Like I thought we were going to transition from Tesla to GameStop. You literally just said that Tesla is the biggest threat to GameStop.
I know. I'm like, damn, I got to make a whole video about that. That's a good one. I wait till WallStreetBets gets a hold of that.
Oh, that is brilliant. That is incredible. So, okay, then what about, why not buy some options and join the movement? What's keeping you from, if you're I think you had mentioned you're doing this thing with this particular cryptocurrency, you're doing a speculative bet there. What's keeping you out of buying some options on GameStop or even the AMC?
To be honest, I'm a little late. If I'm going to put on my savage Gordon Gekko, like options trader brain here, it's just, I'm late to the party. Like GameStop at 20 billion, the options volatility is huge. It's just not, the upside's not there. And I like to buy things where I like really do the fundamentals. Like even this Unisox token that I'm like, quote, trading, like I'm going to trade part of it, but I want to hold part of it forever because I think it's like this priceless piece of art in terms of innovation in computer science, tokenizing an asset on the Ethereum network. Yeezys are going on the blockchain. This is going to prove it. And then this is going to be the asset, these 500 socks, which there's only 300 of left now, are going to have proven this model, which billions of dollars of commerce transacts on. And therefore they will be this weird sort of piece of the cultural zeitgeist, almost like art, and trade for, so even that I almost have an investment thesis of. And I don't know, I just invest in the future you believe in. It's my theory and my deal flow of like startup deal flow. Like is just too good. Like I want to invest in a startup that's building a really cool product, not, speculate on this kind of casino of GameStop, even though I think money could be made there. And you want to talk about how money could be made there. I mean, GameStop's a $20 billion company, but they still have so many shares short that need to get covered. There's a phenomena to what happened now, which I haven't seen much people talk about, which is called the float lock. So the actual float is much lower than the listed float because so many people are just holding shares and refusing to sell them. So this is creating an artificially much tighter float. And then you have all these shorts who are forced to cover. There's still like 50 million shares short, I think. So I still think you could get just a massive short squeeze that continues. But I also think like at the end of the day, you're buying GameStop at 20 billion. Like, I just don't think it's worth that. And I think you're just holding the bag at the end of the day, or really risky to hold the bag if you buy in at this price. And like, yeah, it's just not where I spend my energy. Like I like to spend my energy in things that I'm intellectually fascinated in, that I like think are important for the future. And like this GameStop, it's gonna be a historical moment. But I don't know. Are you trading GameStop? Like,
Great question. So, in terms of GameStop, what I did is on a live stream last week, I bought a single share, a single put contract, and gosh, I don't even remember. I think it was like 2 or 3 or something like that calls, and it was as a way of tracking. But in terms, I mean, we're talking about 0.001% of all my invested assets, right? So it's not something that I have gone heavy on. The argument you just made, though, that I think is very interesting is you said you're willing to speculate on, and I forgive me, I don't really understand what you're talking about. Maybe you can put some more clarity on that coin that you're talking about. I want to hear more about that. But you made an interesting point, and that is, if I'm going to speculate, like Tesla high conviction plays is what you're saying. Tesla high conviction, like all day long, a little pricey now though. If I'm going to speculate on something newer, I'm going to speculate on something that I believe has a future. In other words, you're saying I don't want to speculate on GameStop because you don't believe in the future of GameStop, but you do believe in the future of the coin. Did I synthesize that correctly?
yeah, totally. Like if I'm gonna do some savage options bet, which I have, like my last options trade I put on my channel, which was buying Spotify calls, but I also own the stock, and I was like, this is a great company. So I like to have that sort of fundamental thesis that underlies what I would trade. That was kind
Got it. Okay, and then maybe can you give me like the 5-year-old version of what the heck you're doing with this other investment?
the sock token.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, so it's a sock. It's called Unisocks. It's literally just socks, but what makes them special?
They sell socks?
So there's a thing called Uniswap, which is the biggest DApp, I believe, on the Ethereum network, or it's a decentralized exchange on the Ethereum network called Uniswap, transacting billions of dollars a day, I think. It's huge. It's totally blown up. But so they, as their first piece of troll merch, were like, okay, we're going to drop merch. We want to drop limited edition Unisocks because we're Uniswap. And because we're an Ethereum exchange that's all about listing this asset, we're going to literally like IPO this, like tokenize this sock. So you can buy the sock token and redeem it, and we'll send you a sock just like a sock. Or you can have that sock token that's redeemable for that pair of socks and trade it as basically a token. So now that
it's
token,
$21,000.
Yeah. So I bought it for $60 was the first one I bought. And I got a dividend of 1,000 Uniswap tokens, which is now worth like 15 grand. So $60 to like $35,000. Like literally you can't, I'm like, dude, I'm never going to top that. But, and the reason why is because there's like such a limited amount, like 21,000 a sock, I think is still with 500 socks to like 10 million market cap. So it's still small in terms of what this could be. And it's kind of gotten out of hand, but it's like, you're buying a piece of internet history, if that makes sense. Because now
what are they doing? Like, besides selling the stocks, what's the company premise?
So Uniswap is a decentralized exchange. They're crushing it. So you can do any sort of token on the Ethereum network, and they're the best exchange to do so. We're sort of the leading market share one. So they they have the Uniswap protocol, I believe it's called. And so to me, this protocol and this model of tokenizing assets on top of Uniswap is a huge game-changing idea. Like somebody just did it with cassette tapes. Like this artist dropped this limited edition cassette tape, and you could either buy it and get the cassette tape or hold the token that would freely float. And that cassette tape's now worth like $1,500. So this is the future of all collectibles. Like Yeezys on the blockchain. Like everyone buys their Yeezys and then holds them in their house brand new, and then you have to sell them on StockX and they have to verify and authenticate. It's a mess. So the way that this and it's already a tens of billions of dollar market that these collectibles trade on. So the future of all these collectibles is it's the number one application for the blockchain. To me, is this it's the killer app of tokenization, is tokenizing limited edition merch, because I don't have to store it. It's stored in some vault somewhere in the future, and we can all trade this token frictionlessly. We can even have shares of this token. I can buy, $20 of a sock, even though they're trading for 21,000 because it's a fungible token. And this is the sort of model and built on this Uniswap protocol that all limited edition collectibles, Supreme, when they drop a t-shirt, the Jordan 1s, whatever painting. So I think, and then if this model takes off and every asset is tokenized on this Uniswap protocol, the first asset that ever did it was that breakthrough moment, is like this crazy piece of internet history, and you can own it as a token. And that is what Unisocks are. So it's like, to me, it's such a dumb, crazy bet that's so out there and such a tiny piece of my portfolio. But this is like, to me, it's almost, now I'm saying it's not really a trade. It's kind of like, it's a trade because I want to cash out for some soon to buy some other random art scheme that I have. But like longer term, my thesis of like, if this Ethereum collectibles built on top of Ethereum is a thing, and these tokenized merch is a thing, then I see Unisocks being potentially, hundreds of thousands per sock, because the Da Vinci just sold for 450 million. If socks, to me, socks could be worth 450 million, like one Da Vinci painting, that's $1 million a sock almost. So,
wait, so why would you tokenize a collectible? Like, let's say this here mug was, one of a kind, or there were only 10 of them in the world, right? And everybody wanted this fire-making cup or mug or whatever. What? I get a benefit out of having this because I can drink out of it. I can put it on a shelf. I can display it. What do I care if it's tokenized? I don't understand that.
Only if you would want to like keep it limited edition and not use it and have it be tradable. Like, it'd be really hard. Like, if you want to use your mug, then you don't care. You'll redeem that token. But if you want to just invest in that mug because you think more people will want it in the future, you don't want to redeem it. You don't want to hold it. You don't want to drink coffee out of it and decrease the value. You want it to be stored perfectly, as it, like what the token represents is, it's like a Michael Jordan rookie card that's in mint condition that nobody had to store, verify, or authenticate. It's just chilling there in perfectly automatically guaranteed mint condition. So it's way easier for me as an investor to trade that token than to trade that card. And so that, to me, is the idea. Is the second you start looking at these things as assets that you could trade and securitize, not just things you want to have IRL, then it makes sense. And my bet is people want to tokenize and trade and securitize all assets.
So what you're saying is, if this mug here were worth $10 billion, okay, or some insane number, this is the most desired collectible item in the world. Like, no Van Gogh or whatever holds a candle to this. This is $10 billion. And you want to own a part of this mug. I could sell you a fractional share or a share so that you have a way to say, I am a part owner of that mug. And this is in some chamber locked up somewhere, but you are now a collector of a fraction of this mug by tokenization.
Yep. And then it's going to get even better, because what if you get a dividend because they're like, you know what? We're the Louvre, the best museum in France, and that $1 billion mug is so iconic. We're going to put it in the Louvre, and we're going to have this special exhibition. We're going to post it on Instagram, and we're going to do a live stream, and everyone in the world's going to come. We're going to make $50 billion from this one event where people just come to check out our mug. And then we're going to securitize that revenue as dividends for all those mug shareholders. And then all of a sudden you're getting dividends for your mug. So I don't know, but like, it sounds crazy, but like,
opens up. So what you're saying then is, we're going to have a whole breed of people who are going to go, let's go do a fundamental analysis on the mug, is what you're saying. Because like, you have to value those shares somehow.
Yeah, I guess to me, I would equate the irrationality of thinking socks are worth $1 million to the irrationality of thinking paint on a canvas is worth $450 million. Like, what are you going to do with that paint? What is it really worth? Are you going to, like, the apocalypse hits, what do you want? Guns and tuna, not Unisocks or a Da Vinci. But that doesn't change them from being culturally relevant. I don't know. And that's why I'm so fascinated by it, because this is one of my things I can't think about, like my financial brain. It's like, what cash flow does that painting have? What cash flow do these socks have? Why is limited edition collectibles and just being a part, to me, it's art. And people have not appreciated these collectibles as like moments in time of humanity that are products, and they're pieces of history, and they're a piece of the zeitgeist. And that is why they have value, because they're just like art. And so that's my kind of contrarian bet, is like, why I buy sneakers, why I buy paintings, because I think all of it has tremendous value. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. We're kind of in uncharted territories here. Like there's a pair of socks they're the most expensive socks in the world right now. They're 20 grand a pair. Kanye doesn't even know about them yet.
So wait, Kanye. So what you're saying is your tokenized sock is less speculative than GME right now.
I would put them in the same boat, but I'd say in 5 years, I think the sock is worth more. I mean, I don't know. I that's a good question. I don't know. Like, and like, this is like, you got to remember, like, I got involved in these socks by like literally being like, this is cool. I'm going to Venmo my friend $60 because these $12 socks went from 12 to $50. And then I check and I'm calling my homie Mike and I'm like, what's up? And it's like, I'm like, dude, are these actually at $4 grand a pair of sock? Like, I don't even have my key to log into my wallet where I have apparently a sock. And then he's like, dude, you also got a dividend of 1,000 Uniswap tokens. And I'm like, you know, so I just kind of fell into this. So it's not like but
I think it's very interesting, and I see what you're saying, because I think your Louvre argument really hit it home, because I've been to the Louvre. I've been to Paris 3 or 4 times now. I met my wife in Paris. I have a real affinity for Paris. I tell Lauren every day I want to move there and live there, and just quit everything and just have croissants and coffee. You know, it's just my dream. Seriously.
Love it.
You know, so, but I could see that, like, you know, hey, we're going to invest in something we think is going to go up in value. Now that begs the question, is it possible that GameStop could be that? So taking this level to this argument to the next level, could GameStop be the stock that the movement, you know, people are moving into the social movement and saying, I'm holding GameStop because it's a piece of history and it's better than your damn stocks.
Now I'm like, okay, GameStop's got a solid thesis behind it. No, seriously. I mean, what happens if like Bitcoin, like where people talk about Bitcoin, where it's just like this big kind of pyramid scheme that as long as everyone keeps buying into, it'll be a thing. So then I was kind of thinking like, I don't know if I fully believe that, but I was thinking about GameStop. Like, what if it just, like, we've become so decoupled from reality, and maybe I'm a, you know, perpetrator of this system by talking about these stocks that are ridiculous, but it's like, you know, yeah, I think if people decide, like, what did WallStreetBets say? They're like, I feel like I'm not allowed to say like the R word, but they're like, we can stay, you know, but longer than you can stay solvent. Yeah, like I'm just quoting them.
We can stay retarded longer than you can stay solvent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, that can go on for a long time, you know, especially when the government's printing $1,200 and soon 2,000, you know, whatever the government's printing. I think to me, this is you know, people talk about, oh, inflation's not picking up. There's no inflation. And then I look at GameStop and I'm like, dude, look at the price of GameStop inflating like crazy. Look at Bitcoin, look at Tesla, look at Apple, look at Amazon, everything that you want to own. Look at Unisoc. It's all inflation is going crazy. I think what's really the root of all of this is there's just been too much monopoly money flushed into the system. You know, you want to get back to like the hard, you know, real thesis behind all of this is that fiat is crumbling. And the true dilution and inflation rate of fiat is going off the charts, and people realize that and don't want to hold fiat. And that's why Bitcoin to me is like the answer to all of this. And so I just see like what you said at the beginning. It's like there just feels like there's too much money sloshed around the system. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's.
Yeah. What percentage of your portfolio are you throwing into Bitcoin?
Bitcoin's been about 7 to 10% of my portfolio for like a long time. And then Tesla's like 70. So it's really just Tesla and Bitcoin, but like they keep kind of going up. So yeah.
Yeah. No, and then every time it goes up, it makes your other investments, like I think you mentioned Spotify, smaller share.
Yeah, it's just like,
because the other ones are going to the moon. You know, like I got a lot of hate when I was saying 54% of my portfolio is Tesla, but I'm like, it was a high conviction bet and it paid off, you know? So I think that's similar to what you're saying here. So, okay, now on GameStop then, what do you think is the future here? What's going to happen? What's next? Should people who have profits bail, or should they diamond hand hold this forever? Is it a month? Is it a week? Is it a day? Is it a year? What do you have a thesis on that?
Okay, if I had to give you like my totally honest opinion guess, I think we could hit like 1,000 a share and some crazy spike, and then it's gonna start crumbling. Like I think we have one more big squeeze up, and then it starts crumbling. Because the other thing is the higher, and this is it gets so weird because the more it goes up, the more irrational the valuation, the more incentive bigger and bigger hedge funds have to short it. The more bigger fish get involved, the more they're going to want to squeeze them, the bigger the squeeze could get. So who knows how many ways? We already squeezed out Melvin Capital. What if we squeeze out Citadel? This can just get wild. And so, but at the end of the day, like it's already like Robinhood might go bankrupt. You got all your stuff in Robinhood. Like, I don't know. I'm just, if I had 25 million from like 30 grand or whatever, I would be definitely taking a couple mil off the table because who knows? And like buying like a house, it's like something real that you got, you got that. Who cares what the dollar's worth? But,
Right.
Cause I don't know. I just think if you're going to come down at the end of the day, like, are you comfortable? Like I see people putting their life savings in this, like my Unisocks thing. I don't want to give people the wrong impression. Like that's like literally like funny money for me. Like I put a little bit in, like I just mooned. I'm fascinated by it. I'm just watching it. It's not like, my financial, it goes to zero tomorrow. Like I don't even care. I don't even break a sweat. It's all good. I totally know I'm playing with fire here. Like I just think you have to have that mentality for doing GameStop now. And like the people who are putting all their life savings and all this into this to like, it's like, all these people are coming out like they're the hero because they put, I bought GameStop at 20 billion. Like we're really sticking it to the man. Like I really did my part for the little guy, really changing the world here. It's like, dude, you're just not changing the world if you buy GameStop at 20 billion. Like I don't know. I'm skeptical, but I also missed the whole run. So what the hell do I know? I haven't been in GameStop. I'm only up 20x on Tesla. What the hell do I know, bro? I missed the 100x move on GameStop. I'm a rookie. I'm a noob out here. What am I talking about?
Well, so then I'm curious what your thought is on this. So I have a thesis, and that is that GameStop will continue to run until we get to peak media. And what's interesting about this is, as YouTubers, we're almost at the forefront as a YouTube community, even watchers, we're almost at the forefront of what happens in media. When something starts trending, as soon as something slightly starts trending, YouTubers are on it. Like hats off to the YouTube community for that. We see a lot of this stuff early before the mainstream media picks it up, right? But when you get Elon commenting about GameStop, when you get Chamath coming out talking about it, when you get it on every news station 4 times an hour giving GameStop updates, and the WallStreetBets community grew from, it was like 2 million users. Now it's like 6.3 million users. It went from like 6.3 to I think like 7 point something in 24 hours. Is this potentially a sign that, now there's a billboard being bought in New York just to show the ticker symbol and the candlesticks. It's in Times Square billboard. I don't know if that's Times Square, but wherever it is. Is it possible that this just keeps going until you actually reach peak media to where media starts saying, okay, the views are going down, let's stop covering this. And then we see that deflation. Then we see people say, time to take the money off. And then how fast is it going to fall? Nobody knows.
Totally. And I think I got to go soon because I got to give my girlfriend a ride. She's going to kill me. But
no worries. Okay. Yeah. What do you got? 5-10 minutes or what do you got?
5 minutes. Yeah. But it reminds me of like Bronto, Idiocracy, the movie, where like everyone buys this stock in Bronto, which is this energy drink company, and they just don't want it to go down. So they buy it, they put all their pensions in it, and then they can't afford to sell it. And then they start watering their plants with Bronto, and all the plants die, and they start only drinking Bronto, not water, because everyone's Bronto stock. Like that to me is where this really is headed. Nowhere dystopia is like, it's so culty and irrational that it's like, who knows how far this can go. But I think you're right. We feel like this is the old news. It's still new news to everyone else. Like I'm watching the All In podcast last night talk about it. It's like this week is going to be the showtime. The way they explain it, they're like, hold on. For those who don't know, this has been happening on internet forums. And it's like they're so behind. They're like, this thing called Reddit popped up, and there was a group of people who decided it. Like the way they talk about it, you're like, what is like? It's like that guy. It's like on Nat Geo. I forget. I'm blanking on the Netflix guy who does all those documentaries and like talks about nature. It's kind of like that guy when they talk about the Wall Street Bets people. But so I think this has a while to go to hit the peak, and there's still 50, like I got back to the numbers. Like what's the short interest of GameStop? I'm pretty sure it's still like a mass amount of shares short. So that's going to keep going.
Got it. So then what do you think, as sort of a last item that I want to hit here is I want your thoughts on Robinhood before we leave. I got to know.
Oh yeah.
Is this Robinhood siding with the suits, screwing the little guy in favor of the Citadel, who's bailing out Melvin, and they're the biggest scum ever. Is it that, or is it Robinhood getting screwed by some clearinghouse who changed the collateral requirements, pulled the rug out from under Robinhood? Robinhood has a PR nightmare because they got to stop trading on certain ticker symbols, and all of a sudden Robinhood doesn't have the communication to actually be able to convey that, and now they're the butt of the hate, and everybody hates Robinhood now. What is it?
The stories in between. And this is what I haven't seen people say. Who the hell owns Apex? Who the hell upped these fees on everybody at once? Those people are I guarantee those people are boys with those big hedge fund guys. So it was like moral hazard. That's what happened in the housing crisis. It's nobody's fault. The Robinhood had to stop trading because their requirements went up so much. It wasn't their choice. Moral hazard. It wasn't on them. Who forced that huge hike out of nowhere on the rate of GameStop? That is the decision that should be scrutinized that nobody's talking about. What happened to Apex Clearinghouse where they were like, we're going to 20x the fees or whatever requirements for GameStop, because that is what forced not just Robinhood. I think Robinhood's kind of got, they were the one who leaded it, so they got screwed and they handled it horribly, but it's also like Public. I'm an advisor to Public. I'm trying to talk to them about it. They had to shut it down. A bunch of other apps, Webull had to shut it down. And you look at what they're saying, they're like, it wasn't up to us. And the other thing is, when 2 years ago, I made a video being like, I'll never put my money on Robinhood. You're not the customer. Citadel is literally the customer. Almost half of Robinhood's revenue or order flow revenue comes from selling your order to Citadel. You are the product, not the customer. That has been their business model. And so to me, I've always thought Robinhood had a super sketchy vibe and I never wanted to hold it. Plus, they've only been alive in a bull market. This is an app. If I'm going to hold my life savings, all my life savings are in Tesla stock. If that account with that Tesla stock and it goes bankrupt and I lose access to that account, I am screwed. So I really did my homework on wait, Robinhood loses money. They have no business model. If the market goes down, they're screwed. Why would I want to hold my life savings in this company that's unproven, run by people my age who are doing this super sketchy business model, losing money, funded by VCs who could pull out at any second? This is waiting to collapse. I keep my money at Vanguard. Yeah, they don't have an app. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, but Vanguard's not going out of business. And so I know I got to have my money. And so I think there's what I wanted to tell all my people, and that's what I made in that video 2 years ago, nobody listened, was who is the counterparty risk that holds all your assets? Because your broker is. I would think 10 times before I put it on some app that was a startup that doesn't have a good business model that could go out of business as fast as it came into business, just because they put out an Instagram to say, so that I think is a real awakening that needs to occur is and I think it's going to be healthy. People need to think that through. And I think Robinhood is going through a huge liquidity crisis. They just raised $1 billion. Their CEO goes on TV saying it's not a liquidity crisis, but we had to stop the trades because otherwise we would have gone bankrupt. That is a liquidity crisis. So, and it comes back to a symptom of this is an app built on top of this clearinghouse that nobody knows who they are. They're at the whim of this clearinghouse. Robinhood's just this sexy UI built on these old pipes that are leaking because they're the old financial system. And so I actually think, to me, the biggest thing that I've thought out of all of this is we need a new stock market built from the ground up that's totally vertically integrated, that knows whose share is what, who knows beneficial of owners of everything, who doesn't allow shorting, who doesn't incentivize day trading. That's why I love what Carta is doing. Henry Ward, Carta X, building this exchange for private companies, which I think could compete with NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange eventually. That is where this is all headed, in my opinion, is we're nearing the final kind of hurrah and fireworks of the public market BS that has been going on for too long.
And really, maybe even stable coins could come in and be involved, like the blockchain could help with this. So what do you think is sort of a last thought then? Does Robinhood, you just slammed them pretty hard. you got them pretty good there.
Whoops.
Don't sue us. Do you think that Robinhood has any chance at redeeming themselves? And what would you want the CEO, if you could ask the CEO a question today that would help get them on that track to redeem themselves? Are you asking for an apology? Are you asking for insight? What is it going to take for Robinhood to get back to being even acceptable?
I would say, look, we totally screwed up and we're going to stop selling your order flow to Citadel. The problem is their entire business model relies on selling your order flow to these huge hedge funds. So that's why they're in such a hard position, because what do? You can't, if I'm Citadel, and I've had meetings with the other apps that compete with Robinhood that have the same business model, and I'm like, dude, you cannot sell your order flow to customers. This is gonna come back to haunt you. This is a horrible business model. They all do it. They all do it because it's just this race to the bottom of free trades, but they're not really free trades because you're not paying the market price. But now how is E-Trade that looks like this big giant dinosaur, it's like $7.95 a trade, going to compete with this sexy app in your Instagram that says zero? You're just not. It was a race to the bottom, and everybody had to sacrifice the ability to stay liquid and the ability to be a solvent company for you to trade for free. And so everybody wanted this free thing. And then that just sacrificed the solvency out of all these apps, in my opinion. They don't have almost none of them have sustainable business models because they don't charge for their service. You know, how long am I going to make YouTube videos if I make $0 from it? How much am I going to sell my merch if I make zero? It's free merch. Dope. Yeah. I can get 5 million users of my merch if it's free. But, you know, so I think they're in such a tricky position right now. And once the internet turns on you in this cancel culture, like, it feels like Robinhood is going to have such an uphill battle. But if I were them, I'd say, we totally messed up. We're going to stop selling your order flow. We're going to start charging you for trades. We're not going to allow margin. We're not going to allow options. But does Robinhood deserve some credit for starting this movement, for getting millions of young people involved in the markets, for teaching them their first really hard lesson when they all lose a bunch of money on this? That's, priceless.
Wow, that is a great way to end it. Thank you so much, Gali. How can people reach out to you or follow you? Shout yourself out, man. I really appreciate you coming on here. Thank you for that. It's a really fascinating talk.
Dude, this has been so fun. Really appreciate you having me, Kevin. My name is Gali. HyperChange is my channel. Google HyperChange. You'll find me. Twitter, at GFilche, GFILCHE. I'm always tweeting. I'm following this stuff. Can't wait to talk again about this, Kevin. I think it's going to be epic. I can't wait to see what happens this week. So it'll be a lot of fun. But thanks for having me. Seriously. Yeah.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for your time. And we'll see you in part 2. And thank you to everyone who is watching. Consider sharing the video if you found it helpful. And go check out Gali's channel. Thanks, everyone.